Hello and welcome to this Sunday show, the only prime-time television program in English explaining the political turmoil in Eastern Europe. I'm Andrei Kulikov and this is Hromadske.ua, Hromadske International. Search it on Twitter and Facebook and you follow us on every other social network that you can imagine. And oh, what a person we're going to discuss today with people who really know her. Mr. Oleksiy Ryabchin, MP from the Batkivshchyna faction, the current composition of Ukrainian parliament, and Mr. Yuri Hanushak, a former MP from the Batkivshchyna faction. They both know the presidential candidate Yulia Tymoshenko very, very well. And Yulia Tymoshenko has been a constant figure in Ukrainian politics since 1990s, a controversial, a tumultuous career with lots of achievements and lots of drawbacks. She has been a nemesis for two Ukrainian presidents. Effectively, she managed to spoil the future career of Mr. Yushchenko, but Mr. Yanukovych managed to incarcerate her. A lot has changed in Ukraine since she has been prime minister, and she's been the prime minister twice. Her popularity went through ups and downs, but suddenly she finds herself in the first slot as far as surveys of people's popularity are concerned. So today we'll be asking the two MPs, or former MP and current MP, about her real chances to win, about how she can attract more voters and what's the danger of her losing the popularity. All right, so Ms. Tymoshenko has been Ukraine's prime minister twice, and obviously she has an experience of being at the helm of the state. But the prime minister and the president in Ukraine are quite different roles. How do you think, Mr. Ryabchin, what is her potential to be the president instead of the prime minister? First, Mr. Ryabchin, try to keep within 3 minutes, and then Mr. Hanushak.
Together with Mr. Hanushak, we were MPs, so 3 minutes for MP is quite a good amount of time. So I consider that nobody in Ukraine nowadays, among all the political class, has got this experience to be a successful president except Yulia Tymoshenko. So basically, with the current challenges of our country, with the war, with economic instability, with a lot of corruption, with a lot of poverty, I guess Ms. Tymoshenko is the best candidate to fit the presidential position. But you're perfectly right that speaking about presidency and prime minister, because we have the triangle of power, which is where the current checks and balances are not well written according to the previous constitution. So she proposes, and as we see at the picture, the new economic course and to adopt a new constitution where there will be only one person responsible for everything, with better checks and balances for opposition, not to become, a dictatorship or something like this. So we are now working to the new constitution project, where people will support it on the referendum, and we will write this together. Now the best experts in constitution, philosophers, politicians are preparing a draft that will be then discussed among the whole the population, and I hope that she will be managed to implement this new constitution and to change the structure of our country to do a better checks and balances.
Just to get a clearer idea, is this new person who will be responsible for most of the country's politics is going to be the president or the prime minister?
It doesn't really matter how this person is named, president, prime minister, chancellor, or whatever. What we have observed and we examined that the best countries has the parliamentary system, not the presidential. There is only two exceptions, like the US, among the best 20 countries. But those, let's call them chancellor or prime minister, who has a full amount of power, which is given them by the parliament, is basically the best countries, and these examples we are discovering. So the executives should be in one power with full control over these people among the members of parliament and among the population. So this is checks and balances that we are trying to develop.
What Mr. Rabchin MP has just told us reminds me of the attempt to form a big coalition back in 2010 or 2011 when Yulia Tymoshenko has almost reached agreement with Mr. Yanukovych, who later became the Ukrainian president. And then she also seemed to insist on Prime Minister having more powers than the president. Now we turn for a comment to Mr. Hanushak, a former MP from the Batkivshchyna faction.
The first one, if something is proposed before election as the project of constitution, etc., I don't believe. Why? Because I consider this as a manipulation to have the voters, etc. In revanche, I want to see the text before, just now. The text of the amendments of constitution or all constitution. If something is written, it can be discussed.
If something is written, it can be rewritten.
Yes, and it can be discussed also. So if someone say, believe me and vote for me because I promised you something very better, I don't believe. And the another one, if you say about successful countries, there's not only one US, also it's France, presidential parliamentary. And you must see the example of Great Britain, successful country. It's not very good for us, the first one. Great Britain has not the neighbor that is called Russia. It's in Ireland. And the second one, this is common law. And the system when the judge power is very strong. So something as the pillars of the state is the judge country. So they can make parliamentary republic. Small countries also can do, but Ukraine, no. The another one that I say about our constitution. Yes, I see some problems. I see some problems with the executive power, and I can show what is the problem in the example. For example, Moskal, the chief of administration of Zakarpattia, he is against decentralization, and government can do nothing for him because he belongs to the president nomenclature, they say nomenclature. And of course, the changement, the amendment for constitution only in this line of constitution must be. The another one, I consider the manipulation, the promise that constitution must be adopted by referendum. I am agree with this line, but I am not agree with this line. Etc. Constitution is very, very difficult document. Only one question. If you adopt it in referendum, how you want to make the changement in the constitution?
Okay.
Also in referendum.
Okay, I readdress this question to Alexei Rabchin, MP.
First of all, I see no links between the, as you mentioned, negotiation with like 10 years ago with Yanukovych or something like this, because the idea of having a new constitution is not the one that proposed only by Ms. Tymoshenko. Like, it's almost like 15 years, civil society, the constitutionalists, the NGOs, like the best lawyers, trying to find a different, better model for a state, to re-establish the republic. So it's not the one that proposed only by Tymoshenko. And I hope, and Tymoshenko made this statement, that like if any other candidate that her wins, like it will be like the work on the new constitution will be continued, because it's not only Tymoshenko requirement to develop a new state. It's the requirement of time. So the process of writing this document, or the draft of a document, as Mr. Yanukovych mentioned, is going nowadays. We have almost 109 best people in Ukraine, like specialists, who is on daily terms, is trying to develop the text of the constitution to propose then for a wider discussion, because you need to have this draft with a better checks and balances. And I've been constantly on this negotiation. I'm an economist. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a specialist. And for me, like in the beginning, it was rocket science, like definitely. But then I also was inspired by the idea of re-establishing the Republic of Ukraine, and with different checks and balances, and for better representation with the people. And to respond to the thing about the pre-election promises that Mr. Yanukovych is saying, like, believe me, it's much more better to speak about some, populistic rhetoric rather than with constitution, because, like, when you speak with the people over the new constitutions, they don't understand this. They said, like, we need pensions, we need money, we need to finish the war, we need to fight with the corruption. Nobody's saying about the new constitution. So it's not a populistic rhetoric. It's a leadership rhetoric which will not benefit for Tymoshenko, but she knows as a leader that this is the thing that country needs.
And probably that's why Ms. Tymoshenko's most notable slogan now is cutting the gas prices for population twice.
Yeah, I could also speak about this as a member of Energy Committee.
Yes, let's first hear from Mr. Yanukovych. How do you assess this sort of approach? Let's cut the gas prices twice, twofold, and let's speak less about other things. On the big boards.
What is the difference between the experts and politic man? Expert must say everything that belongs to the subject of discussion. Politic says only those that is not lie. Yes, but if he say only about this meaning of this subject, this size of subject, but not the dark side, this is a lie at all. Only one question. I am agree that the amount of gas that is provided in Ukraine is maybe the same as this for consumer, for the population.
Households.
Maybe.
Households.
Houses. Yes, but it's another question. What is the amount that we buy? About 9 billion. What is the price? 3 times more. Is the best rule of economy, it cannot be 2 prices in the country, because those subject that is less expensive must disappear. This is a rule. So you must say the price for economy and the price for housing must be the same. This is the truth. If you say the price for housing must be less twicely, but nothing say about the price for economy, this is a lie.
Mr. Yanukovych, from my own experience of living abroad, I know that at least in the country where I worked for several years, there's a very flexible system of getting discounts for your consumer prices, and it does not always coincide with the price that industry has to pay. But let's hear from the economist.
About Canada, for example,
yeah.
The petrol, the fuel for the agriculture must be colored. Mm-hmm. So it must be not the same. Mm-hmm. That is only 20% more expensive than in the market. But to color and to control that is not rebuying, reselling, is more expensive. That is a gain. That is why I say. There is no only one tube that goes from our our providers, and another that goes to the economy. This is the same tube. So you must make a lot of controllers that will consider that there is no corruption.
Okay, about pipelines and buying and selling and transiting of gas. Ms. Tymoshenko was very acutely criticized by some people, by a lot of people, I would say, for the gas deal that she concluded with Russian President Mr. Putin back in 2008, 2009. Do you think that people still remember this, and do you still that people still hold a grudge against Ms. Tymoshenko, and this significantly affects her electoral chances?
And you should also bear in mind that Mr. Manafort is in jail for the money that was given him by Yanukovych, $70 million, for blackmail, not blackmail, for accusing Tymoshenko of this bad contract. So he is now in jail for the corrupted money. So it doesn't mean whether it's if Yanukovych was Russian president and he is now in Russia and he gives money for criticizing the contract. Maybe this contract is not so bad. This is, I would say, for the foreign auditor. But with the whole respect to Mr. Ganushek, he's a well-known expert in decentralization, but he has no enough knowledge in energy, because I could say a lot of examples in the country that have 2, 3, 4 prices. Even in Ukraine, we have several prices nowadays. We have a special tariff for the religious. We have different prices for the industry and for the household nowadays. It's not about the prices. It's about how you meter it. It's about metering. So why on 5 years of having this so-called market price, we don't have 100% of meters? When you have metering, it doesn't really matter how many prices, etc. you will sell. Why we do not have energy efficiency? Why we do not have regulators? Why we still have a monopoly as a Naftogaz, but according to the third energy package, we need to unbundle it. For 4 years, we are not unbundling the Naftogaz and we have monopoly. We are not able to create a market. Why we have oligarchs like Firtash in Oblgaz's structure. And we still have a huge corruption. So people pay a lot of money for the anti-corruption branches that we have created, and I'm honestly supporting them. And they are paying the high amount of high prices because it was communicated that it will eliminate the corruption. So they pay against the corruption twice, but we still have a corruption. The thing that we do not have is the independent regulator who will set the independent price, but because the regulator is dependent from the president. We don't have independent anti-monopoly committee because it also captured with the people who are saying that, I don't know, oligarchy companies are not monopolists. So this is what we need to do. So Ms. Tymoshenko proposes to reduce the prices twice, but if I will be an advisor, I will advise to focus on energy efficiency, metering, fighting with oligarchs, fighting with the corruption, and the most important thing, we are the richest country in Europe after Norway on the gas deposit. So we are sitting on gas. In 20 years, gas will not be needed because it will be everything green and clean. So we need to have investors, and as soon as possible, from America, from, I don't know, Netherlands, from Norway, with best 3D seismic technology, with the best environmental friendly technology that will help us to drill the gas, and we will not buy the gas from Russia or Russian gas from Europe or whatever. We will start selling gas to Europe, and this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do, and this is what Tymoshenko will do.
Okay, this is what Tymoshenko promises to do.
And she will do this.
Yes, about her ability to deliver. You both were and are MPs of her faction. I remember when I presented a political talk show on a nationwide television, Ms. Tymoshenko was one of the guests whom I actually, well, if not feared, whom I had an apprehension when she was coming to my show. She's not the best person to have a dialogue with, because she, to my mind, disregards the interests of the person with whom she talks. Have you felt this when you were a member of her faction? Do you feel this when you are a member? Briefly.
Tymoshenko has very great experience. So he knows very well that everything that she say will be discussed and will be manipulated. That is why she say everything that feel not by the mind, but by the heart. Mm-hmm. So that is why there is something as idea. Yes, I know that she lie, but I believe.
Okay. Mr. Rabchin.
First of all, you did well on this national TV show, also, and with Tymoshenko, same. On my experience, we have the faction or expert council, saying whether we need to vote or not to vote for this law, or like we're now in campaign, like discussing whether we need to do this or not to do, whether she need to say this or whether she do not need to say. She's very strong, in persuading. But if you're able to persuade her to do or not to do something, you feel yourself like a hero, definitely. But she's listening. But it's, for example, it's her campaign. She is the one who campaigns. So we are advising her, and she listens. But of course, as a leader, she's doing according to her preferences. But I have a lot of examples when myself personally or the faction change her mind and she behaved differently. So she listened, but according to her experience and her personality, she, as a leader, might behave according to her own experience.
Coming back to those infamous gas agreements with Mr. Putin, there's a popular notion, justified or unjustified, that she has links with Mr. Putin and that somewhere under the surface she may be leaning towards Russia. What's your take on this?
Well, if we consider Yanukovych as pro-Russian president, and he behaved everything that Putin said, so we do know that she was in jail and sit in jail for many, many years. So it would not be without the Putin interference. So if she is pro-Putin, like why she was in jail and Yanukovych become a president, and many other things. And now I'm sit close to Tymoshenko in the parliament, and I'm participating in a lot of negotiation, and I see who is in the team. I can't see anybody who is pro-Russian or saying or trying to influence, saying like we need to do this and that. We have a very strong pro-NATO link. We have a very strong pro-NATO, pro-EU team, and we are moving to Europe. We are moving to NATO, and we are the pro-European, central right force that moving Ukraine to Europe. But she's very strong, and she's able to negotiate with anybody. But as she said, like the very last, she will not negotiate with Putin. Like eye to eye, she will sit with Putin together with the leaders of United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, according to the Budapest Plus strategy.
Understood.
So everything will be okay.
Ms. Tymoshenko and her alleged pro-Russian sentiments.
I think that we can say in the another side, who is anti-Russian. Because everybody just now, in exception maybe Rabinovich with Boyko, is nationalist. It's a question who is detested, who is anti-Russian at whole. You can see that only about one person, Putin, say that he will not discuss with him after the Azov conflict. He said that we will discuss with new power. So, for Putin, everybody, in except of Poroshenko is not the best, but better.
Okay.
The question then, why the godfather of Putin, Mr. Medvedchuk, is the representative of Ukrainian president in the Minsk negotiation?
He is not representative. This is manipulation.
I didn't interrupt
and the
you.
Poroshenko said, he doesn't represent me. He represents Putin.
But he is appointed him, and why
No,
Mr.
he is not appointed by him. He is intermediary, and he is represented by Putin, but not by Ukraine. So does not manipulate by this.
One more time, he is a representative of Ukraine in this negotiation. He sits with Irina Gerashchenko.
I say once more, he does not represent Ukraine. He's the best.
Mr. Hanushak, Mr. Rabchin, this does not have any direct bearing on Ms. Tymoshenko. Let's
I would like to finish my sentence, which I was interrupted by honorable expert 3 times already. I hope you won't interrupt me 4 times.
You lie. You lie. I say once more, he does not represent Ukraine. He does not represent Poroshenko. He represents Putin in the negotiation. That's all.
Mr. Poroshenko agreed that Mr. Medvedchuk will be representing Putin as a Ukrainian representative.
It's not question agreed or not agreed.
For example,
it must be intermediate.
For example, Mr. Lukashenko, who is the president of Belarus, a week ago sits with Mr. Medvedchuk and said that he is Ukrainian representative and he speaks
Mr.
with
Lukashenko
you
can
interrupted
say
me
everything.
fifth time, and it is not very
because
polite
you lie.
from you.
It's not a true.
You lied
it's not a position. It's a lie.
You lied 3 times.
You say about sad person. You can say only about you.
Mr. Ganushak is a lawyer of Mr. Medvedchuk, but I would like to...
I am not a lawyer.
I'd like to
not
finish
only
my
Ms.
question.
Tymoshenko is a very controversial figure, but of course any talk about her leads to further controversies and all this kind of stuff. I advise you to go to hromadsky.ua. You will find there a lot of materials on Minsk agreements and Minsk negotiations. We won't be able to solve this issue within the time that the Sunday show has, but what has just happened prompted me a next question. We have been talking for quite some time that Ukraine needs a president or other leading figure who would represent the entire country. Because the common perception is that sometimes it's the east of the country that elects the presidents, sometimes the west and the center, coming from different parts of our country. Mr. Rabchin from the east, Mr. Hanushak from the west. Do you think that Ms. Tymoshenko is a figure that can really be perceived as a person of their own all over Ukraine?
According to the polls and according to the result of the local election that we have 7 times all over Ukraine, in the east and west, in the center, in the south, Yulia Tymoshenko is receiving a full support among all of the population in the country, and she is now uniting the whole of Ukraine. It's not about west and east for Tymoshenko, it's about the whole of Ukraine. So we won these 7 rounds of election. We see this in the election poll, that she is the one figure that unites the country. And I'd like to finally finish my sentence about Mr. Medvedchuk, who is controlling 2 national-wide TV channels, and this is allowed to him by the Security Service of Ukraine, which is controlled by Poroshenko. He is controlling the gas, LNG, liquefied petrol gas export and import from Russia, and this is allowed to him by our security services, which is appointed by Mr. Poroshenko. He sits and in the Minsk Accords negotiation because of the signature of Poroshenko, who allows him to do. And I see that Mr. Ganushak defends Medvedchuk, who is an evil for Ukraine. So I bet that Mr. Medvedchuk will never be the intermediate during the Tymoshenko time. I do really hope this. It will be another, not such controversial figure, but Mr. Poroshenko agreed having Medvedchuk there. So this is why I would consider that it's a play that Mr. Putin doesn't like Poroshenko. Why his best person is the Ukrainian representative here. And this is the answer to the accusation that Ms. Tymoshenko has a linkage to Russia. She has no linkages to Russia. We have not such people in our team. So this is the election technology trying to accuse Tymoshenko. She was the leader in the Orange Revolution. She was the leader in Maidan, and she is pro-Western politician.
A leader.
Yeah. Batkivshchyna representative was there, and we were there.
Yeah, Mr. Hanushak. Ms. Tymoshenko's ability to be a uniting figure for Ukrainians.
The first one, Tymoshenko arrived in the last Maidan only after the ending of Maidan, so he was not a leader.
She was a symbol of Maidan, and
yeah,
her portrait was there. She was in jail.
This is only one remark. About Medvedchuk, I don't know what he is, the first one. I say it once more, he does not represent Ukraine, that's all.
Why he there? Why he is there? From Ukrainian side?
I say once more, it's not from the side of Ukraine.
He's from the side.
From the side of Ukraine is Herashchenko.
No.
So the first one who will say who represent Ukraine can be only those who represent and is the official member. The another is manipulation. So he manipulated. The second one about that every side of Ukraine can support Tymoshenko. Mm-hmm. At the same time, the election shows that Poroshenko also is supported by all the country as well. And you see, from the major, Tymoshenko has 5 major in the last
mayors.
Mm-hmm. Poroshenko has 52. From the side of the deputies, Tymoshenko has 26%, Poroshenko has 24%. And this is the same figures, and at whole Ukraine. So the situation that was in the time of Yushchenko, that Yushchenko represent west and Yanukovych represent east of Ukraine, this is changed. So it's very good that all leaders, so Poroshenko and Tymoshenko, represent all country. So I think it's very good situation.
Very good.
Just to say, like this is official, Medvedchuk is Ukraine's special representative for humanitarian affairs in the trilateral contact group on Ukraine. So he is official representative of Ukraine in a trilateral contact
about
group.
This?
He was appointed on
what
5th of June.
Which side?
It's a news. I have only one minute to find.
I say once more. See, please, official document.
I will send. Okay.
Official document.
But he is Ukrainian.
Represent Ukrainian delegation.
I repeat.
Herashchenko.
Dear viewers,
That's all.
Dear viewers, go to hromadsky.ua. You'll find plenty of materials there which may explain to you this controversy. Coming back to Ms. Tymoshenko and her chances, on the 22nd of January, as far as I remember, on the very symbolic day for Ukrainians, this is the day of Ukraine's unity, and this, of course, harkens back to the question that we have just discussed. Ms. Tymoshenko is most probably going to be moved forward as a candidate for the presidency, nominated. And then, supposedly, she will be registered at the Central Electoral Commission, which presumably, again, is controlled by Mr. Poroshenko, the incumbent president. Do you foresee any hindrances or problems with registering the candidature of Ms. Tymoshenko? Yuri Hanushak and then Alexei
I don't see any problems about this. You see, problems was with Simonenko. Mm-hmm. He liked to be registered by as the representative of Communist Party. Mm-hmm. That does not exist in our country just
well,
now.
it exists.
Official.
It
Yes.
is not recognized, but it does exist.
Yes, of course. But what can be the problem with registration of Tymoshenko? I don't see the problem.
Okay, but
I see another problem. Another problem is that Central Committee does not make the election for new gramadas. So it's a problem.
Territorial communities.
Territorial committees. So why? It's a question.
Okay. In answering the question about are there going to be any problems with registering Ms. Tymoshenko's candidature, could you please tell us what's her position on the new territorial communities?
First of all, our team is prepared for any manipulation, for any kind of thing that we know that it will happen. It might happen because Poroshenko controls the whole administrative power. We see it when, for example, in the Territorial Election Commission, our candidates who are, for example, the kindergarten teacher or the teacher in the schools, they receive a phone call from the administration saying, if you will go and will be elected, will take part of the election in Batkivshchyna, you will be fired. And we receive this, and people just afraid of losing their job because of the administrative resources used by Poroshenko. So we are prepared for this, and we have team of our team Batkivshchyna all over Ukraine in every single village. So we are ready to defend the result, we are ready to provide the result, and we are ready to show and to say about anything that might happen if anybody willing to do the falsification or manipulation. So we are knowing that Ms. Tymoshenko will be the, on a scope of everybody. So we already prepare all the documents and examine them twice or three times. So we are ready for the registration, but we will be supporting and watching closely with all the things that is happening.
Okay, and now I demand the answers within 30 seconds. The final question. If Ms. Tymoshenko makes it to the second round of presidential elections in Ukraine, to your mind, whom would she prefer as her rival? The incumbent President Petro Poroshenko or the comedian turned politician Volodymyr Zelenskiy? Who wants to start? 30 seconds.
Maybe he. Question is strange.
Basically, we are now the leader according to the result of the amalgamated community election. We are leaders according to the polls. We know the technology that now the polls will start to show that Poroshenko and Zelensky or whatever will move closer to Tymoshenko. We know this. But we are ready to fight for our victory, and I, myself personally, all the team will do everything for Ms. Tymoshenko to become the next president of Ukraine, wherever the candidates will be in the second round.
All right. Who is preferable to Ms. Tymoshenko as her rival in the second round?
You see, it can be another situation that in the second tour will be Poroshenko and Zelensky.
All right. So, as you see, we still are making our minds about who has the biggest chance to win the forthcoming Ukrainian presidential election. And if you want to get the first-hand information in English, where to turn to but to Hromadske International. From the team of the Sunday Show, good night. And of course, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, search Hromadske International.